Parsha 101, Parshas Lech-Lecha. This week's Torah portion focuses on Avram, continues the story of Avram, and focusing on the birth of a nation and a people who would carry out God's plan for the world. So, Lech-Lecha, the name comes from the first verse of the Torah portion, V'yomer Hashem al Avram, Lech-Lecha me'aretzecha me'moladatecha. Hashem says to Avram, go from your land and from your birthplace. A lot of commentary on this. And Hashem basically says, go to land that I'll tell you, and this is going to be implicit trust that Avram's going to have to display by just wherever you say, that's where I'm going to go. And Lech-Lecha, it kind of literally means go to you. So Chassidic commentaries say it goes to yourself, as in come to your true self and realize who the real you is. And also Avram leaving now, it's indicative, it's going to represent the cosmic process of refinement, that there are sparks within the world that must be elevated, and Avram going out, he's starting that process now, that this is what the task of the world is going to be, and of his children are going to be, to go out into the world and refine the sparks. How do we know where they are, which ones we're supposed to refine, to elevate, etc.? Well, wherever we end up in life, that's where it is. We are supposed to, every place we go to, we're supposed to elevate as much as we can, and that should elevate the sparks that were meant for us to elevate. And so Hashem says, so go, and I'm going to make you into a great nation. I'm going to make your name great. And all those who bless you, I will bless. And all those who curse you will be cursed. Many blessings. So Avram, he goes. This is the story of Avraham as we all know it, even though there's more about Avram we know from before. But this story, as far as the Torah records, begins when Avram is 75 years old. So it's never too late for greatness. And so Avram leaves. He packs up his wife. He takes his nephew Lot, comes with him. And they head south, go to Canaan. And he has up in Shem, and Hashem appears to him, and he says, all this land is going to be for your children, etc. Avram builds a mizbeach, an altar, and he goes and he sets up his tents in Bethel, then he makes another mizbeach. And Avram's trying to move south to go to Har Moriah, where the Beis HaMikdash was going to be built in the future. What happens now is that there's a famine that comes into the land of Canaan. So Avram goes down to Egypt, where there was still food aplenty, and he tells Sarah, who then was still called Sarai before her name was changed, tell everybody that you're my sister, you're so beautiful, they've never seen anyone like you, which commentators say because she was fair-skinned as compared to the very dark skin of the people there, so she's so exotic. And basically if you say you're my sister, then my life will be spared, because then they'll just think they can just take you or whatever. But if not, they might actually kill me to get to you. So also that they'll come and they'll be good to us, they're going to come give us all these gifts and stuff. So when they come, though, they find Sarah and they say, wow, this one's fit for a king. So they bring her to Pharaoh, which actually calling Egyptian kings Pharaoh specifically comes from the Torah, because they're all called Paro. And then Paro gives Avram sheep and cattle and donkeys and camels and servants and etc. Just lavishes gifts upon him for his beautiful woman he now has because of him. But because Paro did take Sarai, there was a plague that strikes the whole household. And eventually, some say there was an angel that was there, that Sarah, that if anyone came near to her, she'd say, hit him, or whatever. So Paro eventually realizes that it's because of this new woman who's been brought into the house, and he's going to realize also, like, wait a second, they're not siblings here. And he says to Avram, like, what have you done? Why would you say that she's your sister? Just take her and go. Versus when this story happens, it's going to happen with Avimelech, but here it happens here with Paro. He says, take her and go. He's like, basically, don't hang out in the line of Egypt. I'm going to let you go. I'm a king and have some standards, but I can't vouch for the rest of my people. They do whatever they want. So if they're going to think she's so beautiful, just get out. So, okay, thank you and goodbye. And he leaves, he's led with gold and silver and cattle and all that kind of stuff. An Egyptian maidservant, it describes, comes with him, and they said that's actually a princess, the daughter of Paro. And Paro says, better for my daughter, Hagar, who's going to be Hagar, to be a slave, not a slave, to be a servant in Avram's house, to be a servant to Sarah, then to be a princess in Egypt. You're just realizing the greatness of Avram and Sarah. So Avram goes and he goes back to Canaan. He goes to the Negev, he sets up in Bethel again, he sets up the altar, where the altar is, etc. Then Lot, who's been hanging around, he's been hanging on his coattails, he's also getting very rich from all that Avram, from all that's occurred to him. And at the being, there's so much flock and everything like that, so they're pasturing, and Lot's shepherds would take the flocks out, and they would pasture on other people's lands. And Avram's shepherds would be like, what are you doing? You can't do this. They're like, oh, but God, this is all going to be Avram's land one day. Like, but it's not his land right now, and you're taking other people's. So they were fighting. Eventually they realized, okay, we probably can't hang out. We got to separate. So Avram tells Lot, he says, whichever direction you go in, I'll go in the opposite direction, but I think we got to part now. And Lot goes to Sodom, on the Jordan plain. It's going to it's part of Jordan now. He goes to Sodom, and it's called Sodom. Sodom, he went to a place where they deliberately sinned against Hashem. So it's not just that he parted from Avram, but he parted from Avram's ways and his teachings. He would retain some of it, but as a general idea, he went to the most opposite place that you could go than Avraham, and hanging out with Avraham. After Lot leaves, Hashem comes to Avram, and he says, look, north, south, east, and west, this is going to be your land. It's going to be the land of your offspring. They're going to be as plentiful as the dust of the earth, etc. So then Avram goes to Hebron, makes a new altar there, etc. Now we come to a new thing. The War of the Kings occurs. There were 4 kings, and they were it. And there were 5 kings that banded together, and they rose up in rebellion against them. So they were serving them for 12 years. They were under their boot, and then they rebelled for 13 years. But in the 14th year, things are about to go down. Big war occurs, and the 4 kings defeat the 5 kings, and it describes different locations, etc. But why is this important? Because one of the areas that they defeated the rebellion in, and when they ransacked it and they took everybody from there, was Sodom and Gomorrah, Sodom and Gomorrah, which is where Lot was. So Lot, Avram's nephew, is now taken as a captive. It says someone who survived the battles came to tell Avram. Commentaries say that it was Og, a giant, who actually survived the flood, and he would later become a king. So Og survived, and he went to run to tell Avraham, guess what happened to your nephew? And here, the Torah refers to Avram as Avram HaIvri. Avram Ivri, we say Avram like Abraham the Hebrew, but Ivri really means from the other side. Because people say like, oh, he came from it was the other side of the Euphrates. He grew up in Mesopotamia, and then he crossed the Euphrates to get to the land of Canaan. So they go, he's the guy from the other side. And obviously not just literally the other side, not just a physical location, but his beliefs are different than ours. This monotheistic guy, which is why for a very long while, Jewish people were called Ivrim. They weren't called Jewish people until much later. So this is where it comes from. So, okay, Avram hears this, and he's like, hey, I gotta go rescue Lot. And so he gets Eliezer, his main servant, and 318 attendants of his household, whatever, they all arm up and they go off in pursuit, and they go into the night. And they go and they attack, and they actually defeat, even though there's so much less of them, they defeat the 4 kings, they retrieve all the stuff, and they free everybody. So then the king of Sodom comes to Avram, and he greets him, and thanks so much for what you've done for us. And then it says also someone named Melchizedek, who was a son of Shem, who was Noach's son. This would be Noach's grandson. He was a king and a priest, and he brings bread and wine to the victors of this battle, and he blesses Avram, and he says, bless Avram, and God who looked out for you, etc. And because he's like a priest of God now, Avram gives him Meiser. He gives him 10% of all of his possessions. And so now the king of Sodom says, okay, all you've done for us, let me just take my people, and you can just keep everything else. And Avram says, I swore to God that I will not take a single thing, not a thread, and not even a shoelace. So you will not be able to say I made Avraham rich, right? God's the one that my blessings come from. But you know what? All the people who came with me, they should all have equal share of all the spoils of everything. So after this, the word of Hashem comes to Avram in a vision. God says, don't fear, I'm your shield. Your reward is going to be very great, etc. All the blessings and promises again. Avram says, I don't have any children. So is Eliezer, he's the foremost person of my household. Is he going to inherit everything? He's going to inherit everything. And Hashem says, no, you're going to have your own child will inherit you. And go outside your tent and look up at the stars. See if you can count them. If you could even count them. That's how plentiful your children are going to be. Your descendants will be like the stars in the sky. And it's also not just literally, as in just too numerous to count, but also in a metaphorical sense, that they will be morally bright as the stars in the sky. That people who stumble along the way, every Jewish person can be a moral beacon of light to others, cast light upon others. And then Hashem basically says, like, you've done your astrology, you've seen that this Avram and Sarai, they can't have children, but you're not always going to be Avram and Sarai. You'll be Avram and Sarah, and they can have children. So he doesn't officially change the name yet, but Hashem just tells him, like, break out of this natural order of things. They think, oh, this is the way of things, right? God is above nature. He could do whatever. And Avram believes it all. He doesn't even ask Hashem for a sign for this. However, there is a sign that's going to occur, as in this kind of promise that the children will inherit the land. So this is when we have the covenant between the parts, the bris bein habesarim. And this is going to be the sign, this covenant that God says that your children will inherit the land of Israel. So it's not just a gift, it's going to be an inheritance. Inheritance, you just have to show up for it. So this land of Israel will be for all time. Generation to generation, it is the inheritance of every single Jew. So the covenant between the parts, take 3 calves, 3 goats, 3 rams, 3 turtle doves, and a young dove. These are all actually indicative of the sacrifices, kabbanis, that would be offered in future times. Cut them all in half. Well, he cut all the cattle in half, not the birds. He did not cut in half, and put them on either side, and he was supposed to walk through them. And Hashem came as like by sunset, he came as a smoking furnace and a flaming torch to pass through, and that would seal the covenant. But before that happened, Avram cuts them up and puts them on either side. Then all of a sudden, this deep sleep descends upon Avram, and it also says a dark and ominous fear comes upon him. Because what's this fear? Hashem tells him, your children are going to be in a foreign land. They're going to be slaves in that foreign land. And it's going to be for 400 years. Now, one thing, though, is that this is going to begin from when you actually have a child. So it was going to begin when Yitzchak was born. Not that they would be slaves for 400 years, but the count begins from when Yitzchak is born. Yitzchak was born in the Hebrew year 2048, and the redemption from exile happened in the year 2448. That was the Exodus. So the children will be slaves. But afterwards, I'm going to enact judgment on those who enslave them, those who oppress them. Because this is sort of part of the destiny. They didn't have to go so out of their way to make it, they didn't have to go especially hard on them. And they're going to leave with great wealth, your children. You, however, you're going to die in peace, because this is not going to affect, this is for your children. You're going to die in peace, etc. Also, this whole land is going to be for your children, inheritance, etc. The Torah actually goes through all this land, and it lists all the locations where all the different nations were, and it says all this is going to be for your children. After that now, so Sarah still Sarai, she tells Avram, okay, I've got this Egyptian maidservant, maybe you should father children with her, because it doesn't seem like I'm having kids right now, and through this, we're going to build up. So it happens, and Hagar gets pregnant. It's Hagar, the daughter of Paro. Hagar gets pregnant right away, and when that happens, she's looking down on Sarah. Like, oh, you're so righteous, so special. Well, you're not having any kids. And look, right away, I've got it. I'm already pregnant. So Sarah kind of tells Avram off, like, what is she speaking like this for? Let God judge between us, who's right on this matter. And Avram says, okay, she's your maidservant. It's her fate's in your hands, kind of. So Sarah deals very harshly with Hagar, and Hagar runs away to the desert. And she runs off, and she's at this well, and an angel comes to her. And first, not surprised, she lives in Avram's house. She's used to things occurring, to seeing much spirituality. The angel comes, and he goes, oh, hey, where are you going? Where are you coming from? Where are you going? Just opening up this conversation. So she tells him what happened, and the angel says, no, you got to go back. You got to submit to all this. But no, you will be blessed. You're going to have a multitude of descendants. You're going to have a son. You're going to name him Ishmael, because God heard your outcry now. He's going to be like a wild savage, but he's going to dwell with his relatives, etc. And so she does return, and then she gives birth to Yishmael. Avram is now 86 years old. So much, it's already 11 years later from the start of the Parsha. Now comes the big thing. Now, when Avram is now 99 years old, so Yishmael's 13, Avram is now 99, Hashem comes and says, I am going to set a covenant with you. That covenant is going to be the circumcision. You're going to walk in my ways, you should be whole, you should be perfect. You're going to be a father of a multitude of nations. So your name is now going to be changed. You're not going to be Avram anymore. You're going to be Avraham, like Avhamon, father of many nations. Kings will be your descendants. A lot of blessings and all that kind of stuff. This covenant is going to be between me and you and your descendants forever and ever. It's going to be everlasting. I will be a God to them. This whole land of Canaan is going to be an everlasting heritage, etc. So keep the covenant, and these are the two sides of the covenant. Circumcise all the males of your household. This has to happen, all the males, at 8 days. So, of course, Avram's older here now, but this is what you're going to do. This covenant's going to be within your flesh. Anybody who does not get a bris, and from your family, they are subject to curse, that their soul could be cut off. God forbid. Also, Sarai, your wife Sarai, didn't bear any children, but now we're going to change her name to Sarah, and she will be the mother of nations, and kings will descend from her, and I'm going to bless her with a son. And Avram laughed he had so much joy in this moment that he laughed. And Hashem says, yes, his name is going to be Yitzchak, comes from the name of laughter. And he specifies, it says very specifically in the Torah, Hashem says, he is with whom the covenant will continue. It's going to be with him and his descendants, him only, and very specifically with Yitzchak. So Also, side note, yes, Ishmael will still be blessed. He's going to have 12 princes and be a great nation. But again, my covenant is only with Yitzchak. After that, Hashem ascended after he finished speaking, and Avram went about what he was supposed to do. Every male of the household, servants and the people that come to him, etc., all of them, everybody was circumcised. Then Yishmael was 13, and Avram himself was 99 at the moment of circumcision. And this is what the Torah portion ends off with.